In an earlier video, we saw how English has a pretty complicated system of expressing direction. We saw that the Russian system seems more consistent. To show direction in Russian, we'll normally use a system of prefixes that are attached to the beginning of a word. In this video, we'll look at pri, which expresses the idea of arrival, using it with verbs to express arriving somewhere by vehicle. Let's start with a quick review. We've seen how the verb ехать is used for motion in a single direction to another country, town, or when a vehicle is involved. For example, Я еду в Томск. Они ехали очень медленно. Now we can take this prefix pri and use it with ехать to get приехать. For example, Вчера они приехали в Москву. Завтра мы приедем в Омск. Both of these examples are describing one-time actions, so that's a good context for a perfective verb. But what if we want to express the notion of arriving more than once in a context that needs the imperfective? Let's recall that ездить is used for motion in more than one direction, to another country, another city, or when a vehicle is mentioned. For example, Мы ездили в Россию. Она часто ездит в Париж. If you've seen our first video about arriving on foot, you might think that we could just take this multi-directional verb ездить, add pri to the beginning, and we'd be good. But, as you know, sometimes there are changes when you add a directional prefix to the verb, and this happens to be one of those times. So, here's a really important point. We'll never use ездить with a directional prefix like pri. Instead, we'll use the special form езжать, which, for the most part, is only used with a directional prefix. So let's put при and езжать together to get the imperfective приезжать, to arrive or come by vehicle. Examples. Они всегда приезжали летом. По субботам приезжают внуки. Он будет приезжать 2 раза в год. In all these examples, we're dealing with repeated actions, and that's why we want the imperfective приезжать. So now we have a normal imperfective-perfective pair, приезжать, приехать. And this works by the same principle we saw when we discussed arriving on foot. Adding a directional prefix like pri to a multidirectional verb gives an imperfective verb, even though here we're using the special form езжать. Adding a directional prefix to a unidirectional verb creates the perfective verb. And since pri tells us a direction, arriving, we're really not concerned about multidirectional or unidirectional motion when we're using a prefix like this. And here's one practical note. You may have worked hard to learn the forms of ездить. Я езжу, ты ездишь, они ездят, etc. But again, we never use ездить with this kind of directional prefix, so be sure never to use the forms like езжу, ездишь with при. It's really one of the most common mistakes I see as students are getting used to this system. And note that this form езжать, which we do use after a directional prefix, conjugates just like читать. Я приезжаю, ты приезжаешь, они приезжают, etc. And as we saw before, some books and websites give exhaustive charts about all this, and sometimes it is helpful to see the patterns that you can apply to other words. For example, later we'll see that you can add other directional prefixes to езжать and ехать to express departing, going in, out, across, past, etc., all by vehicle. But don't let that overwhelm you. It's also fine, especially at the beginning, to learn these one pair at a time, just as new vocabulary. Summing up. Russian uses a set of prefixes to indicate direction with verbs, to express notions like going in, out, through, across, arriving, leaving, etc. We can add these prefixes to the special form езжать and to the unidirectional ехать to get normal imperfective-perfective pairs. При means arrival, so приезжать, приехать is simply to arrive or to come by vehicle or to another city or country. Sometimes adding a prefix will change the spelling or sound of the verb, and we saw an extreme example of that here, in that we'll never use ездить with a directional prefix. Instead, use the form езжать after при and after any other directional prefix.